Our next dish is a little bit of a blend between Southern and Italian. It takes flavors that you would normally find like in a carbonara, but adds Southern ingredients to make it a little bit more American, a little bit more friendly for everyday guests. We're going to make a semolina dough, which can be a little intimidating at first, but it's one of the easier pasta doughs to make. Real simple. We're going to take semolina flour, double O flour, which is fine ground flour, pretty much specialty for pasta and pizzas. Once we have our flours added to our food processor, we're going to slowly drizzle water until we form a crumbly dough. If we don't have a food processor, we can always use a bowl with a well, add the water to the middle, and mix it by hand. So with the food processor running, we slowly add our water. Once we come to a state of almost cornmeal, we'll turn our dough out, being very careful not to cut ourselves on the processor blade. We'll take a little bit of AP flour just to help with the sticking. Turn it out onto our bench. And then we'll start to knead until the dough comes together and forms a nice, smooth, elastic ball. So as we're kneading, we're turning the dough in on itself and gently pressing. Make sure to pull in all your dough. As you're going, it may feel more or less sticky. If it starts to feel wet and tacky, just add a small pinch of all-purpose flour to the top and continue to work. It's important to make sure you work your dough enough so that we don't end up with dry, crumbly dough when we try to form the cavatelli. Once your dough is smooth, you can feel for it, and it should spring back. If your dough stays dented, work it a little bit longer. Notice as it springs back. Next, we're going to wrap our dough tightly in plastic wrap so that no air can get to the dough. And then we'll refrigerate for at least 30 minutes. Letting the gluten relax and enabling us to be able to roll the pasta out. Now that our pasta dough is rested, we're ready to start rolling out our cavatelli. So we'll cut a small chunk off. And I usually like to work it down start ripping it into a rope before I roll it. So using both hands and applying pressure, push down while rolling like you would a rope of Play-Doh. So once you have it into a nice little skinny rope, we'll take our knife and we'll cut it into small little tabs. Once we have the small portions cut, we'll take the back of a fork. As we roll, we'll press on the fork, making a shell with rigid edges. If you don't have a gnocchi board, the back of a fork works perfect. If you do, just makes your life a little bit easier. So pushing and rolling, pushing and rolling. Once we have our cavatelli rolled out, we'll get the next step of the dish complete. We'll take our Tasso ham, which is very lovely Cajun style spiced pork shoulder. Instead of pancetta, like a traditional carbonara, we're going to use this instead. It's just a kind of interesting jumping off point when entertaining guests. You can talk about how you like the spice of the ham a little bit more, and also it works great with the English peas. So we'll cut these into a small dice. This can be an appetizer as well as an entree. So we're going to start our pan with a little bit of butter. We'll wrap any unused dough. If you're entertaining guests, you can roll it all out. Or if it's just for yourself, you can stop right there. So we have our boiling water that's been heavily salted. We usually don't salt our pasta dough just because it makes for a more tender noodle. We salt our pasta water instead. So semolina pasta is usually a bit on the longer cooking side as opposed to fresh noodles. Instead of a minute or two, you're cooking towards 5 to 7 minutes. So keep that in mind when cooking your cavatelli. Once our butter is melted and bubbly, we add our Tasso ham and start to toast and get a little bit of caramelization on it. We're going to have some white wine for deglazing. If your butter melts too fast, you can add a little bit more. Just that way you don't start to brown your tasso too fast before your pasta noodle. Getting the more brown and crispy your tasso gets, the more flavor you put. Once our tasso ham is nicely toasted, and we'll go ahead and give our cavatelli a taste to make sure it's al dente. We'll take our cavatelli along with some of the pasta water and a little bit of white wine and cook that over a flame. This will start to develop our sauce. We'll add our English peas pretty much towards the end so that we don't overcook them, as well as a tab of butter. The butter will help thicken the sauce and making it nice, creamy, and luxurious. If your sauce starts to separate, you can use a little bit more pasta water to help bring it back together. Kill the flame and just keep tossing until your butter is incorporated and you're ready to plate. Once our pasta is ready, we check for seasoning, make sure it tastes delicious. Very rustic Italian. And we just finish with some very finely ground Parmesan cheese.
We are going to work on dessert. I love dessert, so I'm glad that we can share this recipe with you. We are going to work on a panna cotta, which is, if you think about it, it's very versatile. It's a blank canvas. So as fruit is coming into season, different seasonings we could add into the actual mix to just get creative and have fun with it. So we'll lead you through the basics, and we will show you an example for plating. So a panna cotta we will begin with making a gelatin. So we'll take some water and we'll take gelatin powder and we will mix those together until they incorporate it. It'll start getting really thick. So it's okay if it looks strange at first. It should be getting really thick. We can let that hang out for a sec there. And next, we will take our other ingredients and into a pot here. We will add sugar, some heavy cream, milk, and vanilla. And then this is one of those examples of how you can just simply add an extra ingredient into this liquid just to make it special. So we'll zest some lemon in there, and the zest will just steep while it's in there and just incorporate its flavor into the cream and the milk and sugar, all these ingredients that are in here. Can make it special. And then this will go onto the heat. We're not looking for it to boil, but we do want it very hot. So with that in mind, it's nice to have a whisk handy and just get all the ingredients incorporated together and prevent for the milk to boil over. I don't know if you've seen that happen before, but that's no fun. You just lose you lose a lot of the liquid and it's no fun. So while that's rolling, we will actually be blending ours with macerated cherries. We won't show you the process, but it's simply fruit that is just, we add a lot of sugar to it and slowly the liquid comes out of the fruit and all of a sudden you end up with a very thick syrup. And yeah, you could even get the process accelerating a little faster if you're in a time crunch. And then also, we will also top them up with pecans that have been toasted. In these hot days, if you don't want to turn on your oven, it's possible to grab a saute pan, and just low heat, constantly moving it around so you don't have to mess with the oven on these hot days. And we'll come and check on our liquid. Nice. So, when it gets there, we will take our gelatin and we will incorporate it into our milk and cream, and we will constantly whisk that until it's completely dissolved. So just work it for about 1 or 2 minutes. When the gelatin dissolves, so that should be easy there. And next here is we have a big bowl here with water and ice, and sitting on top is just another bowl. And what we want to do is we want to cool down this liquid, and since there is lemon zest in there, I'm also using a strainer here just to catch those little particles, make sure we're not taking a big bite of that. So here with the same whisk, we are cooling it down. Since there is gelatin, this is gonna set, and it's good to go overnight. But again, if you're in a time crunch, give yourself at least 3-4 hours. And cooling it down is very important because you can see there's bubbles can form on top once you pour into a ramekin. It's just the heat escaping. So as it's settling, those bubbles may dry on top, and it's just a weird texture. And we're trying to avoid that. In the panna cotta, we would like just a nice silky smooth bite throughout the whole dessert. So again, work it hard, there's nothing wrong with sweating, low score bread. It just means you're working hard. Set this aside here. Go ahead and toss this to the side here. Just clean up the station, give yourself enough room to work. Cool. So now that the liquid is cooled down, we can now pour it into our ramekins. And while being at home, get creative. This is just one approach to it. There's many containers that definitely work for a panna cotta. Don't be shy, don't be scared, and simply just pour. Give yourself some room to work with. Oh yeah, smells wonderful. Tastes way better. Cool. And here, like I said, if you can go overnight, it's probably best to set. If you have plastic wrap, I would cover it, just to prevent any of the refrigerator taste or any of that unpleasant stuff you want. So I'll go straight to here. So as you can see, the importance of cooling it down. There's a very smooth texture at the top there. Grab a little knife and just kind of release it from the ramekin. Just kind of go around the edge. You don't need to go all the way to the bottom. So just pop up. Just kind of work it. And then we go onto a bowl. Just kind of give it a little shake. So just pop out. There it is. So as you can see, look at the jiggle on it. That's what you want. Want that nice little jiggle on there. Of course, we'll take some of these cherries. You know, have fun with the plating. Get creative. You know, make it look appealing for your guests. Maybe put some on the outside here. A few cherries here. Maybe a little bit of the liquid on top there. Yeah, have fun with it. Of course. Take some pecans. Again, have fun. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's all about just letting the creative side of you come out. Just give it a wipe down, make it look pretty. Cool. And there you go, panna cotta.